مرحبا everyone أهلا وسهلا لأهالينا للبلاد اشتقنا لكم ونشوفكم قريب إن شاء الله في فلسطين حرة. And for all our comrades and our community around the world, I hope you have a wonderful day today. I am Mama Ganuush or Mama Ganuush. I'm a Palestinian drag artist, also performer, recently a filmmaker. I'm also a producer for an organizer at the Hala Collective. I am Palestinian, I am trans, I am Muslim, and I grew up in displacement in Egypt before moving to Ramatash Ohlone territory, known now as San Francisco, California. And I come from a family of Palestinians. My father is displaced from Jaffa in 1948 into Gaza, where most of my father's family right now lives in Muaskar Librej in Gaza under the Israeli bombardment. And my mom comes from one of the biggest and oldest Palestinian families from Gaza, from the heart of Gaza, Shujaiya, where they are currently facing the genocide. I am, before I start, I just wanted to ground myself and share with you a few things. But before I do that, um, it's been a very tough, really few weeks because of the starvation in Gaza. It's been 2 years since the genocide started. It's been 78 years since the genocide against my people in general started. I have lost 216 people that were martyred and killed by Israel the past 2 years. So to honor them, and I know I look like, with the earrings and somebody from the leaning in. It's a confusing identity, but I'm Muslim, and the way I process pain is by saying few ayat, Qur'aniya that just kind of grounds me into the major loss that I have with my family before we start the pinkwashing session. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون. صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. The ayat says, don't think the people who are martyred are dead. They are with God. They are alive and well with God. And this is a message to all the 600,000 Palestinians that have been genocided and martyred the past 2 years in Gaza, and the 78 years of genocide that they have been witnessing our people. So, salami ila shuhada'na wa ila ahlina fi Palestine. This said, what I would like to do today, I have a few slides to talk about pinkwashing from like a queer Palestinian critical review. So this way, to help people understand it better, but also help people talk about it better. And I have slides for you, so I'm really excited about this. I also have a website at the end because I am a millennial, and this is a millennial thing to keep having a website. So today we're going to talk about pinkwashing from a queer Palestinian review. I usually do this in a workshop setting, and I know it's a little bit different because it's a condensed content for people. So actually that's perfect because I could give you that content. You could have it with you as a reference, and you could use it afterwards, hopefully. And if you have any questions, you could always reach out to me through Golden Gret Theater, and everyone who joined. I'll be sharing also my email, and also I am sharing the website and content at the end for anything. As I mentioned, I'm Palestinian. This is a big FU to anyone who would question my heritage from Jaffa, Palestine. This is a document from my uncles that I was named after, Nimr. And this is from 1946 from the government of Palestine. It's one of a lot of documents that we keep as Palestinians that prove our right in our land. It's a bill that he paid in the house that my father owned and his family in 1923, which is around 20 years before, more than 20 years before the Nakba. As I mentioned, I come from Jaffa, Palestine, and Gaza, so I am Palestinian Koh, like we said. And the first thing I want to start is a lot of people don't really realize that they think that queer Palestinians would just exist in a vacuum. We just happen to be maybe because like post-colonial effect or something. But Palestinian queerness has been there for ages, and one of the key things that a lot of people don't know that it's a thousands and thousands of years. And that goes back to 23 through to 300 BC. Queer Palestinians are older than every single like first monotheist religion, right? So the Judaism, which is the first, monotheist religion, was 1300 years after our queer Palestinians are recorded in history. And that's recorded through the god Atarat, who was, I would say, like in the terms of now, they are like non-binary, or they have like both powers, the masculine and the feminine. It's a Palestinian deity that was worshipped in the lands of Palestine in 2300 BC, and it was a male and female, and it was believed to call Atarat or Ashtarat or Astarat in some traditions, but more accurately, Il or Ashira are both the fem and the masculine energy on this god. I am Muslim, and I believe in God that way. But it's just good to acknowledge that even before my religion existed, as a Palestinian identity, queerness existed in our lands. It's not just an Arabic thing or like a European thing. And as you see here, the god Atarat have like little tarbush or like the fez that was around, like I guess, and that's a big reference to a lot of things I want to show you afterwards. Hope is resistance, and I want to share with you just briefly before we kick off. The world is uh, like Zionism basically is taking humanity down across the world, but there's hope, and hope that I perceive as a Palestinian person who's also trans, who's going through a lot of like double genocide basically against Palestinians, but also against trans identity that is happening on a global scale and especially in the United States. I hope, and my hope is built on my people's identity. So, so just to kind of explain that, like I'm an artist, and a big part of my art is based on elements that are Palestinian elements that like quantify and grounds my art and my identity, but also provides me a lot of hope. So as you see, my family was displaced initially from the first Nakba when the early Zionist settlers formed the colonial state of Israel on Jaffa in 1948. I reference everything to the moment in the 1940s and imagining Palestine in a future where Nakba never happened. And that includes, for example, for me as an artist, a drag artist, also a dancer, it's the hairdo from the 1940s. Tahaya Karyuka, who was a famous belly dancer from Egypt and also a comrade and a political activist. She performed in or one of her movies basically was shown in Cinema Al Hamra in Palestine in Jaffa before the Nakba. And people used to wear fez in urban places in Palestine, where the hatta, which is this, was more waist on the head, maybe for more people in the farmlands, which is a big part of Palestine, but in urban places they were like a fez. Also the kufiya and the autonomous thing that I was very inspiring with a big student movement and what they have done. My image as a child, as a trans person, this is like one of my best memories. I wanted to wear a dress and be a fairy, and my mom, I guess, complied with this. And also the Palestinian tattoos, which is a big part of our Palestinian arts. Also the colors of our flag, which is red for blood of the martyrs and the resistance, green for the prosperity of our land, white of our heart and purity of our own cause, and black is mourning for everything that we have lost. In addition to the pink triangle, which was a symbol of Nazi Germany or fascist, basically attack over queer people, where they had them wear basically like a pink triangle, which became like a sign of power afterwards. And based on these elements, I built my element as an artist, as a Palestinian artist. And you could see this across the board. And that's a way for us to continue evolving our identity in a time of genocide, where as Palestinian people, we are facing genocide, but also as queer Palestinians, we're facing an attack on our own identity by colonization. And that's something else I want to talk about today in details. So this is how I offer hope. And I'm inviting everyone on this call to lean into their identity and see what they could find there in order to provide them inspiration and hope. Zionism and fascist propaganda. Let's just take a moment because people assume that Zionism is like a new thing or like the propaganda that they have is a new thing. It is really based on like a textbook fascism and fascist propaganda, and I have some ideas and to explain that. But also, it's a way for us to like process pinkwashing because usually when people talk about pinkwashing, they talk about pinkwashing in a very specific way where they argue whether or not Israel is good for gays or queer people, whether Palestinians are homophobic or transphobic. This is not the conversation that we should be having. We should be having a conversation about colonial propaganda. And I'm kind of trying to help ground people into this concept. So the first thing is masculinist othering. On the right side, you could see this is actually like a Nazi fascist propaganda against Jews in Europe before like the Holocaust and the genocide that happened for millions and millions of Jews. That was basically talking about like the Jewish man as somebody who's not civilized, is somebody who's like disgusting, he's a miser, all of these like sort of fascist propaganda, which is very similar to what Israelis are doing right now. So the same thing that the Nazis and the fascists did to the Jewish communities, especially Eastern European Jews, is very similar to what Israelis are doing right now, depicting like a Palestinian man as an idiot with like a €1 bro. You could see it, like it's very clear while also showcasing the humiliation of our men. With the pictures below that is a picture of civilians that were kidnapped by the Israeli army in Gaza and paraded across the world, the same way Nazis would do that. So masculine othering is removing the human aspect of a man as if they are not important in order to justify their genocide. And a lot of examples of this is like how the news talks about actually people in Palestine being genocided. They talk about women and children. They don't talk about men. And that's another colonial way of like dismissing the death in men and focusing on other things. And when women and children doesn't work, and we were going to see this, they focus on the gays and the queers. The second one is colonial feminism. Colonial feminism, this is a fascist Nazi, basically, filmmaker. I can't remember her name at this point. I'm sorry, I forgot her. It's a picture with her, like, feminist, standing with her hands on, with all the Nazis and the fascists. Similar to exactly Israel. On the right side, showing the Israeli officers, this, like, powerful women. It's a campaign that Israel did about like this, like women with guns. Israeli women are hot. Colonial women who like genocide people are cool because they are white and they could smile well and they're like fit bodied, which is the campaign that Gal Gadot was part of it. And it's not new. It's from the 80s basically. Israel is like pushing out this propaganda. Where at the same time showing the Palestinian women always in misery because yes, she's being genocided, and then showing them as like somebody you have to like protect and save instead of someone that you need to stop killing and genociding their entire life. So this is like a very brief kind of idea of another way of like colonial propaganda. The other thing also is like talking about women with pity, like they pity Palestinian women where, it's European women, Israeli women are powerful and they go to the farm and they build, hippies with guns. And it's like basically just another way to extend the fascist propaganda that was around before that. Another way is juvenile terrorism. And there's a very big similarity between actually Israeli youth and Nazi youth, if you look at these two pictures, and also in reality in general. Because, first of all, they're mostly white, they are Europeans, they're settlers, they're not Palestinians. The second thing is they show them always happy and well fed, you know what I mean? Where juvenile terrorism, Israel always referred to Palestinian children as terrorists, the same way that, colonial Europe talked about Native Americans, indigenous Americans, called them savages, the same way the Portuguese talked about the Brazilians, the native Brazilians at that time, and indigenous Americans from that era, Amazonians as in savages that they need to save, and their children. Literally, until 1933, the US used to kidnap children from the Philippines and put them in human zoos. And human zoos were around. There's one in St. Louis, which is supposed to be a more progressive city. The last one was like in the 1930s and 1940s, where they're showing human children as the same way they show monkeys and apes. So this is not like a new idea, where you could see that Israel have been kidnapping and torturing Palestinian children for decades now, for 77 years, including my uncles. Like both my uncles were shot in 1948, and my father's cousins, that we were also children. Um, in order to understand that, we talked about masculine othering, we talked about colonial feminism, we talked about juvenile terrorism, and then we talk about coexistence. As if like the issue between Palestinians and Israelis is an issue between Jews and Arabs, dismissing the idea that there is Jews who are Arabs. Arabs are Christian, Muslim, Jews, Buddhists, atheists, and Baha'is, a lot of different things. But also removing the word Palestinian. So we become the Arabs. We're not the Palestinians. You know what I mean? Like even Israel uses the word Arab 1948, Arab Israel, as a word to like dismiss our Palestinians who live under Israeli occupation and in the apartheid, whether within like a 1948 occupied lands as second-class citizens or living in big concentration camps in Gaza and the West Bank. So if you think about coexistence is not even a term. It's a colonial term to justify the living of colonizers with the people they colonized beside each other, and the colonized people has to act cute and nice to them. You know what I mean? If they fight them, they are terrorists. If they become docile and they become their slaves and servants, then it's okay. And that's very clear of like what happened in South Africa apartheid. It's also about coexistence. So this word coexistence is something to watch out for. It is colonial propaganda that is put in liberal terms to justify the settlement, where if you're a colonizer entity, my right that the UN gave me is to fight you out, not to coexist with you, because you already are leaving Europe and coming to like basically colonize my land for the past 77 years. Since 1917 to 1948, with the first Nakba, Palestinian lands were occupied by Zionist settlers with the help of the British Army and the Jordanian Army, unfortunately, and few others. Where they occupied 70% of Palestine, where at this point right now they are occupying more than 90%, I would say, or 85% of Palestinian sovereignty land from 1948. And the rest is basically a big concentration camps where they're genociding Palestinians. So always remember coexistence. This is not a good term. Like, I think it's a made up term just to justify that. You know what I mean? You don't coexist. You live and you colonize or you decolonize. That's what happens. And from that point, we talk about pinkwashing. So pinkwashing is, as you see a picture of there, this is, I can't remember his name. He's from the Bravo, from the Andy Cohen, who's a big Zionist influencer who trains Zionist influencers to how to speak best about Israel and how to like pinkwash basically the genocide. Pinkwashing as a term is a term that came in order to wash down or pinkwash basically the genocide that Israel is doing by showcasing their campaign that Israel is a liberal place that allows gay people to exist. So pinkwashing is a term that activists came up with basically to kind of describe this propaganda campaign where Israel justifies the killing of Palestinian men and Palestinian children and women in order to save the gays, which is hilarious to me because I'm in my 40s right now. My family protected me my entire life. The only people who killed me and my family are Israel. So that's like random, like this is basic terms. But this is a marketing campaign that started over 20 years ago, that is funded by the Israeli government in order to promote Israel as a place, a good destination for gays, but also a gay liberation place where like everybody has to look up to, the only Middle Eastern place that allows a very tacky gay man with an addicted army. Again, it's a militarized thing, in a scene in Israel that actually doesn't look like an Arab world, because all of these people are settlers and colonizers. So, at the same way, the parades that we do have as Palestinians are parades of dead children, where Israelis is allowed to have gay parades, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So pinkwashing is just another form of propaganda to justify colonization of Palestine, also make money and militarization. It helps with the military complex, it helps with the settlement project, and it helps in the overall like Zionist project worldwide. And we're going to talk about this in details. To sum this up, this is the latest 2 years ago. There was a Zionist settler and Israeli soldier who's a war criminal who is, as you see, like is a very clear, a very clear witness on him, basically like flattening out lands to step on it with a rainbow flag. And this is the the I think it's a very bad PR campaign. I feel like Israelis are so out of touch that they can't really actually understand or relate to what they're saying anymore. Which is true because bring some like racists in one room that kind of feels like each other, and that's what you get out of it. However, but this is an extension of years of work. We're promoting Israel as liberators. I mean, the Crusades, you know what I mean, the Tatar, the American colonization of Vietnam, all of these, the Dutch like enslavement of people from Africa, all of this was done under like enlightenment, basically. So it's another form of this. But I want people to understand that this is a marketing campaign. This is all what it is. It's a marketing campaign. A big players of this marketing campaign targeted destinations like San Francisco, big gay destinations, and also especially San Francisco and other areas that has high tech, because it's another thing to fuel the Israeli war machine through the technology and the mines and the arms. So literally they had like a target, and they succeeded because most of the pride organizations across these big cities like Toronto, San Francisco are all Zionists. They all run by like basically like by cops loving people. Berlin, as you could see, like it's an extension of the Nazis, where now they are Zionists and they are really like punching trans people and choking them, literally choking like Jewish trans people in protest for Palestine, which is I don't really understand how is that not terrifying for people that this is Nazi Germany's bag and it is going against Jews for the sake of Zionists. Like it's insane. But it's just things to know. Like these are organizations that are more known in the US. I'm sure in your local like area in Europe, in Portugal, there's a few that we're going to talk about them, but it's a way for you to like dig a little bit and like learn where these like Zionist organization exist in your world out there. Queer Palestinian resistance and fascism. Zionism is an institutional problem right now. It's like a cancer taking over everything, including like influencing and fueling the uprise of the fascism in Europe, where Chega, for example, which is the fascist party in Portugal, and the fascist party in Italy are both very Zionist, are hella anti-Semitic, but they're both extremely Zionist, they're very pro-Israel. Similar to the Democrats and the Republican parties in the U.S., these are Zionist parties, like funded by Zionist lobbies. One of them that is most famous is the American Israeli PAC or AIPAC and others. So this is just another reminder that Zionism is the reason of one of the main reasons of the rise of fascism all over the world, in order to suppress voices of liberation. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. Zionism is eugenics. A lot of people didn't know that. I was actually surprised because Zionism itself is based on eugenics concept. So let's talk about this. For somebody who doesn't know what eugenics is, it's a very racist form of, we call it a medicine, like that was categorize humans based on their whiteness. Of course, white people are better, you know what I mean? Black people are idiots, or they have a name for it, you know what I mean? Like it's a very racist way of like categorizing people, similar to what a caste system is, similar to any racist ideology. But eugenics was a medicine that was invented in the US and then adopted by the Nazis, and it was a big deal in influencing actually Nazi ideology. So there is Arthur Rupin, who was like one of the Zionist founders and the founders of the State of Israel. He built a eugenic experiment. He said, like, okay, for the State of Israel, we need to build this eugenic experiment. Zionism is built on a eugenic experiment. That's Ashkenazi Jews, which is white European Jews, are on the top. They're ideal to run the state. Then Sephardi Jews, that's what they call people from Spain and Portugal. they're lower. You know what I mean? They're the peasants of Europe. They're like, the brown ones of Europe. So they are like basically like on a lower caste or lower class than the European Jews from Northern Europe. And then the Mizrahi Jews, which is, people argue it's a made up name, but it's basically Jews from the Arab, the Middle East, because they have existed in North Africa. They are backwards by Zionist leadership. They are allowed to be killed. Like Zionist gangs bombed and killed a lot of Iraqi Jews in the 1950s, for example, in order to scare Jews away from Iraq and for them to move into Israel and support the Zionist project. Similar to a lot of different like terrorist attacks that Zionists did. Hammarskjöld, which is another like UN person. So I mean, Zionist gangs have done a lot of assassinations and terrorist attacks to scare Mizrahi Jews. You know what I mean? Whether in Jerusalem or in Iraq or Iran or other places. And then the last is the Ethiopian Jews, which is basically black Jews, and they call them Beta Jews. They are primitive. The religion is not even accepted in Judaism. Some of them have to convert because they have to convert into like white people's religion. They have been given like shots to stop them from having children. I can't remember what it's called. Interception, whatever shots, where Haaretz showed like that until a few years ago, they were giving black Jewish women things to stop them from breeding because they want to control the population. When the population is mostly European, it's not like black people. So this is just kind of before we even talk about pinkwashing or anything else, the core of Zionism is eugenics. This is a fascist ideology based on racist medicine. And it continues like this. This is one of the key reasons the Student Union of Israel is one of the most racist in the entire world and the most conservative, known that student unions are supposed to be very progressive. Also, it shows because a lot of people who started the state of Israel were not Netanyahu, they were not conservative. Until 19 years ago, Israel was run by socialists and, basically liberal Democrats, I would say. However, when it comes to Palestine, they don't see us as humans. They see us in a degree of eugenics. You know what I mean? So it's like, whether it's liberal Zionism, conservative Zionism, all of it is built on racist ideology. Where the liberal is the upper middle class who wants to promote the Israeli project for other liberals through liberal means in order to make sure they have better minds and better upper middle class income coming to Israel. So there's something to call out. There's nothing called progressive Zionist or radical Zionist because, radical could be because, if they're like radically terrorists, but progressive does not fit the eugenics pyramid. And this is what Zionism is built on. So looking at this, there's Sarah Schulman is one of the Jewish authors and scholars. She basically said that Israel overall is a profoundly homophobic society. Again, what would you think eugenics want? They want to breed European Jews perfect, like nuclear families into Israel. What is trans and queer people are to this? They are a stop of breeding. You know what I mean? Like they shouldn't exist in this society because they are stopping this progress. That's one of the reasons adoption in Israel is not legal for gays. I don't care really, even Israel is the most progressive place in the whole world. It's still a colony. But it's good to acknowledge that what Israel is promoting is actually false because their society is homophobic. They are committing genocide, of course, but also they are homophobic within themselves. Within the laws, gay marriage is not allowed. Civil marriage is not allowed in Israel. You have to have like a rabbi thing. It's basically a theocratic state that's built on conservative and ultra infringed Judaism. Also, Israel is a theocratic state, as I mentioned. It's a pretty Orthodox place, so it's run by Orthodox people, which is a good reminder of like how the U.S. started in terms of like killing over 90 million indigenous Americans over 100 years. It was by Puritans, by this ultra like conservative evangelicals who thought that they're coming here to like fix the world and run away from prosecution in order to genocide a full land. So it's the same story everywhere. There's also a professor, their name is Safo Papanatopoulos. They talk about how like Israel could, for example, allow some gay things but trans people doesn't exist in Israel, which is funny enough because being transgender in Iran and Egypt is legal, and gender assignment surgery is legal in these countries. There is a lot of course, social issues, of course. I'm not saying that these are like trans, trans fantasy lands in the Arab world, similar to America. America just put trans people on the terrorist list. They are a threat to the community. So it's like, we can't really, it's across the board. It's really bad. But with Israel specifically, it's like you have to be grateful that you even exist in one city in Israel. And that's the way they approach trans people. There's no rights, there's no respect, there's nothing. You know what I mean? It is a very theocratic society based on ultra orthodox and extremely insane, like brainwashed, uh, like Nazi kind of youth, which is the Zionist youth and Zionism in general, over generations of building this like rhetoric across liberal and conservative Zionists that they are just better humans. They're higher beings than the rest of Palestinians, and they are allowed to settle our land and colonize it with American tax dollars and European tax dollars. So pinkwashing promotes militarization, which is something interesting, right? Because when people think about pinkwashing, they talk about it as I'm just going to check very quickly my phone in case there's any message from the crew team, because I can't see very well. Perfect. Everything is good. Good. We're good on time too. um, so it's not a stretch. Pinkwashing, which is the promotion of Israel as a gay state and supporting LGBTQ lobbies and politicians, promotes militarization. And then we're going to talk about this. First thing is surveillance, right? So Israel blackmails LGBTQ plus Palestinians. The founder of Grindr is Israeli, who served in the IDF or the Israeli Defense Forces Army. They used Israeli like intelligence uses this in order to out trans and queer Palestinians and threatening to be outed and scare them away from their own people and family in order to have them work as infiltrators for their own communities. And this is something that Israel does, and they're very there are clear case studies about this. So, and if you go to my website, mamaganuush.com/pinkwashing, there's a lot of more information about that. So that's a way of surveillance through like gay apps and gay institutions. The other thing is, the US is a very good example. There is somebody called Emmanuel Yucatel or Manny Yucatel, who is in San Francisco, who has this, he's a lobbyist, a gay lobbyist. There's a lobbying group, LGBTQ Zionist lobbying group for Israel. It's called the Wider Bridge that promotes basically like Zionism and also indoctrinate like young Jewish Americans to become Israelis and serve in the Israeli army. But also, that person is gay, and a lot of other gay politicians that we have locally that are Zionists and funded by Israel also promotes the Anti-Defamation League, which is an organization that makes sure there's access to that doxes basically anyone who speaks against Israel, and also promotes the idea of anti-Israelis, anti-Semitic, but also it's a big power behind the weapon lobby. So the ADL or Anti-Defamation League in the US facilitates a lot of arms sales to the local police officers in San Francisco, where Israel makes money on selling military weapons, basically, to local police across the US, and also do common training with them. It's called Urban Shield, where the Israeli Offense Forces, or known as IDF, they are training with police officers, and this is funded by Anti-Defamation League that is promoted by gay politicians and promoted by these gay lobbies, which is called a Wider Bridge. So that's a very clear a very clear connection between pinkwashing as a propaganda campaign to support the idea of like how gay Israel is, to like policing and militarization. The other thing also, something I recognized, and I hopefully it's not very triggering for people, it might be, of course, but trigger warning. We're talking about like police oppression against Black people. The neck thing, when SF Police Department or local police in general that's trained with the IDF or could be part of the IDF do the knee thing where they go on their knee and choke someone to death. A lot of black people they killed to their death by choking them. It is exactly the same training that the Israel does to Palestinian children and Palestinian indigenous people when they are like engaging with Palestinian civilians. So that is a very clear example of how connected is the training between like the Israeli military and the local police officers, and how all of this is promoted and supported by gay lobbyists and people who are supposed to be Democrats and liberal, like advocating for democracy. Um, this is a very US specific like example, but I am sure if you're in Germany, if you're in Canada, if you're in France, if you're anywhere out there, there is a connection between any form of arms sales deals with your local Israeli lobbies and Zionist lobbies, and one of them 100% is a gay one. So check in, dig in, and do more, and share with me some ideas. I would love to know more about what you have known in where you live. Um, the other thing also about Israel and militarization and torture of Palestinians, and it's not a secret. Israel literally raped Palestinians on public television. They raped them, and the person who raped the Palestinian man in front of the world was forgiven by the rabbi, and it was a whole thing. They celebrated a rapist on the public television because it's a genocidal state that's a colony. It's not a surprise. So we don't need like a lot of proofs. Just Google it. The other thing also that there's a history of that. This is not a new thing. Even Israeli soldiers, when they catch Palestinian youth that is queer or not queer, they scare them. They tell them they're gonna do like gender reassignment surgery on them, and it's something that has been recorded a lot to juveniles, because a lot of people that Israel catch are juveniles, where most of Israel, the Israeli society, the liberal one, the progressive one, the cute one, the conservative one, they have all voted that Palestinian children are adults. So they are allowed to capture them and treat them as adults and keep them in jail for years. Something which is against every single international law, if international law actually makes any sense anymore to Israel at this point. So liberal Zionism is really fascism with a PR team. So it sounds progressive. These are some ideas like this many wider bridge, which is the rainbow flag with a David sign. That's a wider bridge. There's an organization in Portugal that is also promoting pinkwashing and Europride. And it has a lot of different like big events. I'm sure Germany and France and England has a lot of this, and everywhere else in the world, because they have targeted pretty well everywhere. And also San Francisco Pride, which is an organization that is Zionist funded, Zionist led, and promotes pinkwashing. And we have done, not just me, but for years, people have been boycotting SF Pride. They have been protesting it for the presence of military in it, like police militarization in it, because we have like even the gay politicians that we have used to be cops. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of these organizations, and it's just an opportunity for all of you all to really dig deeper into your community and see where are these like Zionist threats. It's very easy to see. It just requires some time to see, to research. And then I just want to remind everybody. Then it is a poem that was said by a priest who talks about Nazi Germany and how he didn't do anything, and he watched everybody basically go away until he was caught and nobody was stood up for him. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And this is just a reminder of Netanyahu and Hitler. These are the same people. Netanyahu have stood in the middle of the United Nations, where he's actually asked to be to show up for a war crime. He's literally has an arrest warrant from the UN justice courts, showing like a new map about the Middle East and how he envisions the Middle East as an American European colony, the last American European colony in the Arab world and this region. It's the same way Hitler was envisioning in Europe. And the Zionist influence what militarization that's happening right now in the justification for genocide and militarization is happening across like local police forces, European nations, it's biting people back home. Like what Israeli soldiers are doing to Palestinian civilians is now what German soldiers and German police officers are doing to German citizens, including Jewish citizens that they have genocided, like in the same freaking city in Berlin, like years before. The same as like they have literally like a statue, a memorial of the Holocaust, while they are still attacking Jewish anti-Zionist citizens and choking them. The same way that they choke Palestinians. A little bit less, probably. There's a lot of racism and categories of how they attack people. But at the end of the day, they're coming to people in their own homeland what they have done to us. Fascism across Europe is extremely Zionist project. It is supported by Israel because all the progressive means and the democratic means and the social means and movements are against Israel because it's a genocidal apartheid state. So standing up for Palestine and thinking about what understanding colonial propaganda and tyranny, it's not something you do out of pity for Palestinians. It's you do it for self-preservation. So it's always a reminder that this is a self-preservation. This is not a privilege you're doing Palestinians. This is self-preservation to stand in unity with Palestinians because we are the front of this Zionist Holocaust that's running across every single part of our community and societies. ICE is the same, the private prison complex in America. People are collecting immigrants off the streets and putting them in Salvador and killing them. They are the same people who are taking the same weapons from the same military companies that provide the same weapons to Israel. It's the same lobbyists that lobby for them are the same lobbyists for Israel. So this is a reality that we are living in right now. So to end this, I just want to remind everybody that a hope is in resistance. And we have hope and we have the just. And as I mentioned, Palestine is the meeting point of this anti-fascist movement across Europe and around the world. It's a reminder that it's important to continue no normalization. No normalization, which means literally not allowing Zionist institutions, Zionist people, you know what I mean? Israeli settlers into your spaces. Like the boycotting, the shaming, and the spreading the word is really important. You can't not be treating Zionist and Israeli settlers committing genocide. You have to treat them the same way you treat Nazis and neo-Nazis and ultralight people that you see in your neighborhood. Would you allow a neo-Nazi to your wedding? You know what I mean? Would you allow like an alt-right or a fascist a protest into your bar? You know what I mean? Would you have a drinks with a fascist? This is the same way you need to think about Zionists. This is the same way to think about genocidal Israeli settlers. In gay spaces, in queer spaces, in liberal spaces, in all spaces. So no normalization. And it's a good reminder also for my Arab community that sometimes is fascinated by European DJs and something like Boiler Room, which is a party that's rooming around the world and going to Dubai soon. These are Zionists. These are owned by like war people. So it's a reminder for my own Arab community and the community around the world and my queer community and the trans community and everyone. We cannot stop we cannot continue normalization. You can't go back to Starbucks and McDonald's and eat anymore. You have to continue boycotting. This is a long play. This is for your own safety, not just for Palestinians. So boycott, shame them publicly, and spread the word. And the last but not least, I want to leave you with my website. So I want to just take a moment. If you want to check the QR code, the top QR code is mamaganuush.com. My website have a section called Pinkwashing that has all the FAQs, all the information, a lot of references of what I talked about today in depth. And also I have a family fundraiser. My family is escaping the genocide in Gaza as I'm speaking. So if you donate anything to the link that I have, I will be sending you a zine So you're buying my zine, and this is the way I could support my family with dignity. Support all Palestinians. Support your trans people in your local community and your local neighborhoods. Identify the Zionist institutions and Zionist leaders and lobbyists and people basically in your neighborhood, and make sure you shame them, boycott them, and spread the word. And make sure that you, when you talk about pinkwashing, just a last reminder, don't fall into the dynamic of like whether or not Israel is pro-gay or not. I don't care. Who cares? It's another colonial propaganda, and this is what it should be looked at. Um, and uh, and last but not least, I wanted to I wanted to speak to queer and trans people who are joining us from the global south or across the U.S. and everywhere else that has been really struggling a lot these days. I know these are very difficult days. We're all going through witnessing a genocide. We are living under fear. The institutions that protected 20% of our rights are being taken away. But I just want to remind you that resistance are waves. Um, in the 70s, it might have been worse than now. And the reason why it's a little bit better now, because there's waves and waves of resistance that's happening for years to make sure that we achieve full liberation. So it's just a good reminder that it's very scary to be living in a genocide. And it's very scary to be afraid for your gender and your identity everywhere. In America and Europe, also, not just the Arab world and the global south. Nobody's at ease. There's like levels of totalitarianism, but evil is the same everywhere. I just want to remind you that we are more powerful because we're together and we're doing this. This is a very good example of how can community can come together and put together a 24 hours program for Palestine. Last but not least, I wanna end us on the Quran again. I wanna praise the way I know how to process trauma is by my people. Sorry. Oh God. Sorry. My people showed me how I lost my relationship with God because of religious trauma and because of what I went through because of religion. And the reason why I went back into my core and my Muslim identity and my spirituality um, is how my people are showing up under genocide, and how the first thing that they say is like Alhamdulillah, which is they are grateful for what they have. And they are in abundance of hope. They are in a lot of pain, but they're not broken, and that's a very good way to remind me of my core and my belief and my people. And I want you to see that too. Um, I I know we have another person coming on board. But before I introduce them, I think I'm waiting for the team to introduce the next person coming. Yes, with your introduction. Perfect. Yes. And for now, I want you just to have a moment of calmness. Um, let's um, let's let's remember Palestine. Let's manifest a free Palestine. And let's join in prayer, whether in silence or not. But this is how my people taught me to pray. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. And next is Music for Liberation. I'm so excited to feature, we're featuring a fabulous lineup of musicians moderated by the one and only Andrea Asaf. And I would like to welcome back Andrea. مرحبا حبايبي, أهلا وسهلا.
Oh, it's so good to see you. Thank you for that brilliant session, Mama Ganuush. It's always such a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll watch you now. Have a good day. Enjoy.
All right.